another Chevrolet Sportsnet Central update. Celtics fell behind by as many as 30 points during last night's loss to the Pacers. At one point, I looked up, it was 66-33, and I was like, what a joke. They did cut Indiana's lead down to 5 with several minutes remaining, but their comeback bid coming up short. Boston fell for the 5th time in 6 games. Jason Tatum, ask what's been going on the last couple of weeks.
Obviously not ideal, especially coming off back-to-back losses. But, you know, we just got to regroup. We got to get back to, we got to learn how to win again. You know, I think it's not as simple as that, but, you know, we got to get back to having fun. I think we, you know, playing a little timid, you know, a little like, tight. You know, basketball is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be loose.
Karen Loads presented by the Chevy Silverado. Let's take a look at the C's recent struggles since their loss to the Warriors on December 10th. Boston ranks dead last in the league in both offensive rating and effective field goal percentage. That's where we're going to start the daily thread with John Tomase and Chris Forsberg. Listen, at first I was like, guys, don't panic. Like, you know, losing to the Warriors, that's going to happen from time to time, you know, playing the Lakers close. But now you lost 2 in a row to the Magic, and you've lost 1 to the Pacers. And the thing that frustrates me the most and gives me pause and cause for concern, Tomase, is the bad habits. Like, they have reverted to whatever they did last year.
Yeah, and it probably really started a little bit before Golden State when you think about it. There were the Miami loss. I know it was overtime, but you started to see some things crop up there. But I just go back to that Golden State game, and I feel like the Warriors broke them and reminded us of all the things they don't do well or do poorly when they're losing. You know, we've seen Derek White revert back to the shooter that he was in the finals and not sort of the deadeye that he was for the first couple of months. We've seen Marcus Smart taking more threes than recording assists in about half of his games. We've seen Brown and Tatum become more one-on-one kind of players. You know, Tatum's assist totals are down a full assist or 1.5 a game since the start of December. And so all of these things together, do I think this is going to last, Chris Forsberg? No. But do I worry when the playoffs get here and you're facing a battle-tested Miami or Milwaukee or somebody like that, or even, God forbid, Brooklyn, that these kind of habits can, reappear? Yes, I am.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Like, I'm probably a 5 on the panic meter, but just like you said, some of the bad habits, some of the things that drove us nuts that we thought maybe were fixed with such a good start that maybe they wouldn't, kind of melt down in bad spots and be mentally tougher and win close games and not let things snowball. And just as you said, though, these things got to keep cropping up. And it really started with that Golden State game, and they just can't seem to get out of their own heads. Now when something goes sideways, they don't catch themselves and they dig themselves 30-point holes, and you can't do that. And so I think they'll find a way. They went from a historic offense to like historically bad. It'll level out somewhere. There'll be a top 10 offense. I think they'll eventually be a top 10 defense. And with those two things, you're going to be in the mix. It just comes down to, can they be mentally tougher and really physically tougher? Because I think sometimes they look a little bit taken aback when teams come at them. And that's what Golden State in particular did. And so if they do those two things, they'll be in the mix. But yeah, for right now, it's like, come on. I thought we were maybe past this.
I think, Chris, that's what's troubling is that timid nature they sometimes get. But also, I don't love hearing Jason Tatum say, like, we need to remember how to win or we need to learn how to win. Like, to me, that's something that should have been, like, developing the last few years, where even when maybe you have an off quarter, and I'm thinking of a Bruins game the other night where they had like a terrible stretch in the second period, and then they just put the hammer down. I would like to see them put the hammer down. Who should get them out of this, Chris? Like, is it Jason Tatum? Is it Joe Mazzulla? Like, who is charged with leading them out of this slump?
Yeah, I think we saw it last night. If they're going to get themselves out of this, it's got to be Tatum, maybe even like angry Tatum, that dunk on Nesmith where he kind of, showed a different level of, okay, this just isn't acceptable. And so for me, it starts with him. He's your superstar. These are the moments when, as much as I love when he goes out there and duels with John Morant or Nikola Jokic and looks really good, like, okay, your team's in a funk. who's going to pull them out, who's going to be the steadying presence, the one that, gets everyone together and prevents those lopsided runs. I think it starts with Tatum. Like, Jalen's in a little bit of a funk here the last few games. And, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said maybe it was Jalen based on the way he had played early in the season and didn't have a lot of inconsistencies in his games. So the challenge for him is finding that, right? Like, he was thrust into all those all NBA conversations and things like that. Well, these are the situations where you got to prove it. So for me, it starts with those guys and then everyone else has got to follow suit. We know how it works, right? The bench is always going to have a little bit of fluctuation. We thought they would be better, but it's got to start with your two superstars.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to throw a third name out there, I'd say Smart. Smart, when he plays unselfishly, he had that run of games, 10, 11, 12, 15 assists. When he is that guy and not the guy who's going 3 for 13 on threes, they're a completely different team. So I would like to see Smart reel himself back and get everybody else going.
Well, it is a season of giving. And my gift today to Chris Forsberg is just give him a little time so that he can remind us that there has been a bright spot in this darkness with the Celtics. What might that bright spot be, Chris Forsberg?
I can just see my number 44 sitting there and behind you, Trenni. And look, Celtics, I want you to listen for a second. Stop. Pull your head out your behinds. Because right now, Time Lord is playing unbelievably well, way ahead of where even I thought he would be coming back from this knee injury. And it is disgraceful that the Boston Celtics are 0-3 since he has been back out there. He's been flying around, making progress every game. I thought he, as much as Tatum, was trying desperately to will them back last night. Please stop ruining the fact that Time Lord is awesome, and let me just enjoy games and not find silver linings just in his play.
All Chris wants for Christmas is a win for Time Lord.
Is to say Time Lord is awesome, and he got to say it ahead of Christmas.
All right, Chris Forsberg, thank you very much. For more Celtics talk, check out the latest Celtics Talk podcast. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can find it on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube.